Hello and welcome everyone to Teslanomics Live. I'm your host Ben Sullins, and this is the show where we break down the latest Tesla news from the week that has passed. We do it live because, as you may know, things move very quickly in the world of Tesla and Elon Musk, and this week is no exception. So I want to thank you all for joining me. I will have about an hour here. We'll cover 4 or 5 stories. I also will post those on the highlights channel, which you can get if you don't want to hang out or don't have the time. Totally get it. But you'll get those kind of in bite-sized chunks throughout the week, so you don't have to miss any of the content. Just you can head over to the highlights channel. It's linked in the description down below, and get all that content to your inbox. You don't miss a thing that we make each week. So thank you all for joining me. And at the end, we'll also do the Crowdcast thing where we do the Q&A. If you want to get invited to that, you need to just get on our email list. Totally free. It's teslanomics.co/join. So without further ado, let's just dive into the news here. And the headline story, the lead story, is that Tesla has reached a milestone of making 100,000 Model 3s, and this is pretty amazing. So this is the quickest that any EV has ever hit this milestone, and the more important thing from the story coming out of Elektrek here is that they are now on a consistent basis of making 5,000 Model 3s per week, and that's pretty incredible. Now this of course also means, and we're looking at Bloomberg here, that the Tesla Model 3 is now the highest selling EV of all time, as we already knew, and it's also making Tesla sell more EVs than all the other brands combined. I mean, we're not even in the category anymore of talking about Tesla as just like an EV company. These guys are really breaking out into the mainstream, so we'll take a look at that down the road as well, because there's another story. Now, one bit about this is that they say that the tax credit is expiring as of today. They've said that orders placed on October 15th, which is today, are eligible for the full tax credit, and that after this you may not get it. So this is debatable, and I just wanted to talk about this for a second because now everybody is available to get the referral code that you get $100 off of free supercharging. That applies to every single option you can buy, so the regular Model 3, the Model S and Model X, of course. So if you were on the fence and you're looking to get that, you know, you get the $7,500 tax rebate plus the $100 in free supercharging. Today's your day. The question, though, I have is how accurate this is. Of course, I would love just to say, go do it, go buy, go use my referral code and get more, because I know that's what you guys are thinking. But really, I don't know how truthful this is, because there's still a couple months to go, and even just a couple weeks ago, I heard of people ordering Model 3s without any reservation previously and getting them within 2 weeks. So I think where you are and maybe what options you're looking for can shift this, but the way it works, just to be clear, is you need at least $7,500 in the U.S. in tax liability, meaning you need to owe that much in taxes, and if you're not sure about that, you can go on the IRS website, and there are ways to figure that out, or you can go look at your taxes from last year, call your accountant, do whatever. But you need at least that much in order to receive that. And then also you need to take delivery of the vehicle in 2018. So beginning 2019, the phase out is going to begin. And so what will happen is that $7,500 tax credit will be cut down to $3,750 for the first half of 2019. And then it'll be cut down to $1,875 for the second half of 2019. And then in 2020, it's all gone. Assuming there are no changes to the laws or anything, there have been a lot of kind of stuff happening there. Even in California, we're trying to up our state rebate to offset this as Tesla and others start to approach this mark. So more to come. We'll see. But if you are like dead set on that, then you may want to do this. And now this does coincide kind of with the standard Model 3 edition that we're still expecting maybe later this year, early next year. So lots of stuff going on there. But if you're just guaranteed want to take advantage of this, you know, today's your day according to Tesla. I'm not quite sure. But what I really wanted to do here was look at the data, because of course that's what we do on this channel. And Inside EVs does a great job. They publish this this monthly plug-in sales scorecard every month, and you can see they have it up to September. Of course, the Model 3 is the highest selling EV, as we mentioned. But let's just put that into kind of a perspective by looking at how the Model 3 has compared to the Model S and X in terms of their overall sales growth. And so I prepared a little something for you, a little nugget, a little data treat, if you will. And it looks something like this. So we have here by month going all the way back to June of 2012, the first kind of real sales for Tesla, which was the Tesla Model S. I mean, prior to that, they did sell Roadsters, yes, but this is basically when things started. And so here's essentially the by month sales trajectory of all the models. And you can see Model S and Model X kind of fluctuate up and down, obviously towards quarter end, towards year end, things like that. They do pushes like this October 15th thing, and then you see the Model 3 just dwarf this entire thing. This is just insane. But the way you really should look at this data isn't necessarily by actual time. To do this, you need to do what's called baselining. So instead of just showing you overall time, because this tells a story, but it doesn't necessarily tell the true story, because what you want to see is how did the Model 3 sales do relative to S and X. You have to rewind the clock and say, instead of just looking at the actual date that they were sold, look at the relative date from when they first started selling. And it'll make sense when I break it down for you right here. So instead of showing you the actual month down below on the x-axis, what we have here is the relative month, the months since launch. And this tells a much more compelling, interesting story. So notice they all start down here at 0, as in the first month that they started selling. Now, of course, the economy and the price point of these vehicles is quite different. The world today is quite different than it was back in 2012, etc. But you can just see Model S and Model X were very much similar. And the Model 3 is just wildly different. And that's amazing. And so if you wanted to do an even deeper, kind of more comprehensive analysis, what you would do is, instead of just showing actual monthly sales numbers, you would show the aggregate sales numbers, the cumulative sales numbers. And so when you do that, this is a cumulative kind of a rolling calculation here. This is what things tend to look like. So obviously the Model S is the highest selling. The Model X is actually the worst selling Tesla right now. And the Model 3, you can just see it is probably going to take over the Model S here very quickly. Now, you may notice and may point out and want to leave a nasty comment about how this doesn't add up to 100,000. Well, that's because this data is a couple weeks old. This is as of the end of September. So 2 more weeks is about 10,000 cars, give or take. And then also, what Tesla has actually made versus what we estimate by, what Inside EVs does, doesn't line up exactly. But you get this, you get the point here. And that's why I wanted to show you this data, is because it's such a compelling story of basically how Model S and Model X were very similar in kind of their launch trajectory from the day they first unveiled it to their growth ever since. They follow very closely towards each other, and the Model 3 is just a completely different animal. I mean, this is just wild how fast this is growing there. So, and yeah, I mean, just to base it, so we're at about 80,000 here, using the data from Inside EVs. Add a couple weeks, we're at 90,000. So whether they're at 100,000, I mean, Elektrek said it. They didn't have a source on that. They didn't say Tesla said it, but it seems like we're either right there, or then maybe next week we'll be there. So whatever, I think that's kind of a minor detail. Just an amazing story about the growth of Tesla and the Model 3 as a true game changer. Now, on the controversy side, on the flip side of this, there was another story that came out, which I was really confused by, and this has to do with, as the headline says here, the U.S. government taking a shot at Tesla after the company touted the Model 3 safety feature. So this is really weird. And so what happened is, Tesla did a blog post last week about the lowest probability of injury ever tested by the NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration here in the United States. And they basically, this data from their report shows that the top 3 safest vehicles ever tested since 2011, that ever tested in their history, was the Model 3, Model S, and Model X, kind of 1, 2, and 3, respectively. And then they came back and were basically saying it does not distinguish safety performance beyond its 5-star rating system. However, they did publish the data. Literally, you can download the data, and I did that, as you could imagine. And let me just jump back over to the rating system here. And you can see that the Model 3 rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive on every one of their categories of testing is the best in terms of the lowest. And it's pretty. And I don't even know. I was trying to find out what these all mean, like the actual definition of these tests and what they are. But no matter which measure you have from their own data, the Model 3, our rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive, are the best ever in their data set. So there's kind of a weird thing. Business Insider actually asked the NHTSA about the data, which shows this right here, Model 3 having the lowest risk of injury in the spreadsheet, and the NHTSA declined to comment, referring back to its original statement saying that they don't distinguish beyond the 5-star rating system. So I don't know what's going on with the NHTSA. This is a really weird thing for them to try to deny. This is like the whole fact denial, fake news stuff to a whole new level. And I don't know why the NHTSA would be doing that. It seems like they are trying to deny facts here, which is probably not a good thing for an agency whose job is to test the safety of vehicles. It just kind of begs the question of what is going on there. Is this a political motivation or what? Let me just you guys think about that down below. I just thought that was like the most obscure thing, and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's just maybe, in our heads, we need to just look at some of these things. So if you ever hear something bad from NHTSA, point now, you may be thinking, okay, is this some political motivated thing or is this real? Because they're denying their own data. So what the hell? Anyways, that's just a little mind trip for you. Let's get back to the positive stuff. And that takes us to Tesla outselling Mercedes-Benz in America, in the United States. I don't like when they say America. If any of you guys are watching from Latin America or Central America or whatever, don't take offense to these guys' ignorance on geography. It's Forbes. They don't really know. It's a bunch of rich white guys probably wrote this article. So anyways, this is pretty crazy. So Tesla sold 69,925 cars between the 3S and X in Q3. Mercedes sold 66,542, not counting the vans, the commercial stuff like the Sprinters and all that. Now BMW sold 71,679, and so they're right on the heels of that. And analysts expect that Tesla will beat BMW in Q4 as well, owning the luxury sedan market. So great news. One of the interesting things about this is that if you look just at the top 20 best-selling luxury vehicles for September in the United States, this is from Good Car, Bad Car, the Model 3 just absolutely dwarfs the next model, which is the Lexus RX. I mean, this is embarrassing. I mean, look at that, 22,000 to 8,800. This is just crazy. And then, of course, you have these kind of wild numbers because year-over-year change, that's 19,000% increase because last year they sold 117. But it is just kind of something interesting that we are actually now at the point where we have year-over-year data for the Model 3. I mean, time flies. I feel like just last week I was going to the Model 3 delivery event where the first 30 or 28 or whatever of them were delivered. And here we are over a year later already. I feel like it's time for Tesla to have another party. We're missing out on some stuff. Then if you look at the brand rankings year to date, so this is year to date, not quarter. So the story is still accurate. But just looking overall, you can look, and this is in the United States again. You can look overall, Mercedes-Benz at 30,000, and then Tesla here at 29.5. I'm sorry, that's for the month. This is for September. So for September, they almost eclipsed Mercedes, but really the more interesting thing I think is that they're beating Volkswagen almost by just about 600 or so there, but they are beating BMW, and this has happened again. I think that was August was the first month. So if you just look, this is kind of wild. And actually, I think back on Bloomberg here, Tom posted this, the top 10 overall, like forget luxury cars, forget any of that. This is the top 10, and I showed this chart a while ago. It's actually better than this now, where the Model 3 is above the Honda Accord, which is just wild. So Yeah, all signs are really, really good for Tesla right now in terms of sales. Pretty soon, in a few weeks, we'll have an earnings call that we can talk about this stuff. And I think during that time, we're hopefully going to get some great news about them being profitable in Q3. Elon has said it before. He's obviously very optimistic and doesn't usually hit the numbers. But actually, when he was saying they were going to hit 5,000 Model 3s a week, they came pretty close to his target. And so I wouldn't put it past them. And so, to everyone at Tesla that is doing this, just cheers to you guys. You guys are crushing it right now. And really, all the short sellers and naysayers are running out of runway here. They're not able to kind of continue this, especially now. Assuming the earnings call is good news, and then maybe Q4 as well. I mean, if we have two profitable quarters in a row, it'll be the end of the shorts in that whole thesis, and we'll be into kind of the period of enlightenment if you guys follow the technology hype cycle. So all great stuff. Now, in addition to that, some not EV news, but Tesla related news. That battery in South Australia, you remember that one? The giant, like the world's largest lithium ion grid scale battery. It actually has reduced the need for the natural gas peaker plants to such an extent that the Australian energy market operator has told plants in the region that it doesn't need their power availability held in reserve any longer. Adios. Officially reducing the electrical grid demand for natural gas. Now, peaker plants are some of the worst because what happens is that they come online and offline as electricity demand peaks, and when the natural gas plant turns on and off, it's when they pollute the most. So it comes on and offline a lot, kind of like your old car. If you remember, if you still have a gas car, you flip it on and you're like, oh, we're sitting here waiting. Should I turn it off because I'm using more gas? But then you remember that turning it on and off actually uses more, so you leave it. Anyways, bad analogy. Same idea though. So really great news. Now this new the battery in South Australia has saved customers $25 million on electricity purchases, which is great because I hear things in Australia are quite expensive. Now this is also coming to the U.S. and there's a new power pack project in Colorado that could save taxpayers there about ratepayers, I should say, $1 million per year. All great stuff. So I know we have one in PG&E in I think it's in Orange County or Southern California as well. So this speaks to that narrative that I've had for a long time, that Tesla is a much bigger than just cars. Cars are kind of the thing that will definitely affect a lot of change that touches our lives. But these things are also going to be helping and really helping that transition, and in a lot of ways are easier, right? Because building a giant battery, I would argue, you correct me if I'm wrong, if you're an engineer that works on batteries at Tesla, I would argue that is quite a bit easier to manage that demand and expectations versus like a car. Because cars just seem like there's so much more to them, and there's like art involved versus just the function of it and all that. So in any event, great news for the folks in South Australia. Cheers to you guys if you guys are watching, as well as Tesla Energy growing and growing. Still waiting on my power walls though, guys. So I would appreciate a little help if you're listening. So there we have it. Now, another story that's kind of interesting is that Tesla needs to appoint a new chairman to the board, and James Murdoch is a favorite here. Now, he is the son of Rupert Murdoch, who's a media tycoon, and he's a favorite and is currently the CEO of 21st Century Fox. Now, Elon and he, I guess, have some disagreements, or Elon has stated that he's not the one. But we'll see and then, how this plays out. But in any event, this is just something out there. There's this whole article here. I won't go too deep into it, from The Verge, about kind of why they do or don't. And people have asked him, and he said, yeah, talk to someone else. But he did mention it to the New York Times when he talked to them. So there's a lot of back and forth going on here. One thing that I did want to point out is that this guy Antonio Gracias is Elon's favorite, but people are arguing or supposing that because he's been involved with Elon for so long, he's not truly independent. So yeah, we'll see. Changes are coming. I still think Mama Musk would be the best one. May is Elon's mom, if you guys don't know, who I just love her tenacity, and if anyone can whip those guys into shape, including including one of her sons, it would probably be her. So, you know, the New York Times also is saying that they think they should have someone with car or automaking experience. But the question is whether or not that really matters on the board, because the board, if I understand correctly, in my experience, they're not really involved in the day-to-day operations whatsoever. Just more of the bigger kind of decisions around, you know, bringing on other investors, things like that. So I don't really know if that matters at all. And honestly, I mean, you know, Elon's not really, I mean, I guess he is now at this point. Kind of like when I started, I wasn't really into EVs and didn't know much about EVs, but, you know, give me a couple of years of digging into these things, and I, you know, not an expert by any means, but gained a fair amount of knowledge. So it's one of those things, like, I'm not sure if someone with car experience on the board makes sense. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe you have more knowledge in that than I do. So there's that. Now, in related news to Tesla's growth and kind of the future, we have some really interesting stuff about what's going on in China. Now, they're closing in on a $145 million deal for a plot of land in Shanghai where they're going to be building it. And the goal is to use the land for Gigafactory 3, which will eventually create 500,000 cars per year, or that's at least on paper what they're putting and what they're saying right now. So interesting stuff. We knew a lot of this already, but it sounds like a lot of these things are being accelerated due to the tariffs that are happening here in the United States. So really, I think that it's more the reverse tariff, where if something is happening over there, you're going to get, like right now, Tesla's selling cars into China, and those have come at a premium because of tariffs. Once they start building these cars in China and selling them to the Chinese market, those tariffs will go away. And so this is great news. So I think what they're trying to do is get this going as fast as possible to avoid any kind of trade war or uncertainty or whatever the hell is going on between, you know, the president of the United States and the Chinese powers that be. So who really knows? Now, one of the cool things is that they're actually already hiring for construction jobs out there. So if you're in Shanghai working in construction, want to work for Tesla and kind of help us move towards that ludicrous future that we're all hoping to live in, this would be a good time to apply, because I think that things are going to move quickly. And so if you recall, there's Gigafactory 1 in Sparks, Nevada, near Reno. And that one right now just produces batteries and powertrains for cars that go ship over to Fremont, which is in the Bay Area in San Francisco, and that's where they make the cars, right? And then from there they get shipped out. I do believe the ones that are right-hand drive, or the ones that are in Europe, don't get completely assembled there, but they get partially. Then they get final assembly in Europe. Correct me if I'm wrong if you guys are in Europe and you know about that. But other than that, basically they're all made here in California. So, you know, this whole thing is a different animal, where the materials are going to come in to this factory and it will actually produce cars. Now, there is speculation that Gigafactory 1 in the US will also be making cars, because we're right along this point of, okay, what are we going to do with the Model Y, and where are we going to make the Semi, and more importantly, where are we going to make the Benz Roadsters? So all those kind of things are coming up. There's no events that I'm aware of right now planned for announcements about any of these things. Maybe they'll talk about it on the last earnings call of the year, which should be happening in a few weeks here. But other than that, we'll probably have to wait till 2019 for any of those kind of major announcements. But, you know, exciting stuff. And I think it just goes to show, you know, whoever is shorting Tesla or being a naysayer here just really isn't looking at the facts, because all signs that I see point to, you know, just great success. So there you have it. Now I'm going to jump over to some Q&A. So this happens on Patreon. If you guys would love to support the show, I would love to have your support. You know, I think the lowest level is $1 a month, so not asking for a lot. But if so, one of the cool perks that you get is you get to get your questions answered before anyone else's. So let's do that now. I'm going to pull up Patreon and we'll get to the Q&A section. First question from Crafty Geek. Do you keep up to date on the expansion of the J1772 Level 2 public charging networks like ChargePoint? Is the profitability payback period for chargers, especially those situated in restaurants, movie theaters, businesses that involve a long stop, good enough to drive broad deployment yet? Or does the home charging undercut the market too much? You know, it's an interesting question. ChargePoint did just announce 2.5 million chargers by mid-next decade, 2025. But we'll see. You know, I kind of argue against the need for these level 2 chargers. It would be cool, but more so, I think the important thing is the long range stuff where you need to charge on a road trip. I do understand that there are people, there's a good healthy number of people that live in places where they can't charge, but I would argue that like that's where they should be, that the condos, the apartment buildings, whatever, wherever they're at, should be the ones offering this, and that these level 2 ones aren't going to be as used or as useful as maybe it seems. But hey, the more charging points, the better. But there probably is a balance there where it's like too much and it starts to really lose it. For example, here in San Diego, we have one called Blink, and I don't know if they've completely shut down or removed all of them. But for example, the local rates I might pay for electricity, let's say it's 30 cents a kilowatt hour, which is pretty high. It's probably not that. It's probably a little bit lower. Blink is, the last time I checked, charging 67 or 68 cents per kilowatt hour. So you're looking at it going, man, I could, like, it's literally double the price of the local rate. They really don't make sense. And I don't know if that's getting to your point about profitability and payback period. I don't have access to that data. I would be very interested, though, because it seems like, they're really trying to gouge the customers here, and that's going to hurt adoption. So I don't know. Someone that's very interesting in this space that I'm excited to follow is Volta Energy, who offers free ad-based services where there's like this big kind of supercharger like thing with a screen on it, and companies buy ads and that's how they pay for their electricity. So there's a couple of those around town here in San Diego, and I think that things like that are going to be kind of the future. The ones where you have to pay double or more of the local rate that you can get at home don't seem to really make sense. Also, and that space, something like EV Match, where it's kind of like Airbnb for folks with chargers, that may be an even better option because you can deploy it and literally have thousands of stations out there, and the rates would be cheaper than a charge point or a Blink or one of them. So I hope they figure it out. Obviously, it's super important to the advancement of EVs, which is what I'm all about. So yeah, stay updated, or I'll stay updated on that and talk about it more as we have more developments. Alex asks, what is your view on the latest development related to fallout from Saudi situation? Do you think if Tesla was in the process of becoming private with buyout from Saudi at this time, it would have been a serious issue about now? I think Tesla got lucky in this case, and many other startup companies that have these investments may have these problems. So if you're talking about the journalist that got killed and Trump saying that he was going to do something and then them saying they were going to retaliate, how does that affect the investment? I don't know. Who knows? If there were sanctions imposed and stuff like that, certainly. But then again, we're still sending astronauts up to the space station on Russian-made rockets, and the United States and Russia aren't in the best political relationship. So I'm not sure if these would cross over and cause issues like that. The political to the economic, often they do. But yeah, who knows? I still would love Tesla to go private, but yeah, that doesn't seem like the best option. I'm sure they could figure out other ways. So, and great pick, by the way. Thanks, Alex. Larry asks, aloha, probably a dumb question, but does the media player on the Model 3 ever turn off, or is it a constant drain on either battery? Maybe it auto shuts off when I leave the car and it locks. Haven't seen a video yet about this question. Yeah, I mean, everything should shut off once you leave the car. That's not 100% because some bits will always be running, but in general, yeah, I mean, it's done. I guess there's not like I think the Model S and Model X has something called like party mode that I don't know if they've released it yet. I haven't seen it in mine, but it's one of those where like right now you have the camper mode where you can keep the climate controls on, which I'm bummed that wasn't in version 9 on the Model 3 because I do use that feature a lot. But if they had party mode where you could like just kind of leave the doors open and have it like play music and maybe are you camping or something like that, that would be the only thing that I know of related to this. So yeah, stay tuned for more on that. And thanks for the question, Larry. Jeff asks, Tesla sold their 200,000th vehicle in the U.S. on July 1st. Looks like they'll sell their 300,000th before the end of the year. Do you agree? What do you think of it? 100,000 since July. That could be because I think I was putting them at 87,000 per quarter at 5,000 Model 3s or roughly plus 2,000 Model S and X. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I would say it's likely. I haven't run the numbers. I have to dig in deeper. Thanks for the comment. Chamber asks, will there be an option to change the layout, navigation info speed back to the right side, or given the users option to rearrange how they like? I drive right-hand drive models and no, we don't drive on the wrong side. I beg to differ. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe for right-hand drive models they'll switch it, but maybe a customization might be nice too. Having kind of the default. Tesla isn't super, open about those things. Elon has always stated that it's an open system and this and that, but I don't know how true that is, and maybe that's kind of one example there. So, all right, thanks for the questions there. Now let's switch over to the Crowdcast, and guys, if you're there, go please vote on something, and we'll get right to it. Got 31 questions. Don't know how many we'll get to, but I will do my best. Let's start answering Tim's question. Tim asked, did you ever get a follow-up from Yo-Yo Shu about his wrecked Model 3? Did he get the car back to the U.S.? Did Tesla take a look at the logs? I haven't seen anything updated from him. I haven't talked to him since the interview. Last I recall, he was going to get it shipped to the U.S. and then updated then fixed. I believe he has done that. I think so. Then the next step might be to actually go back to Europe, but who knows? Like, it certainly seems that some of the comments I've seen him make on some of my posts indicate that he doesn't have the best relationship with Tesla. So yeah, we'll see. I don't know. Maybe you're following his page on Facebook. And he's posted something there. You can go comment and ask him. So. Yeah, I hope things turn around. I hope you could continue that road trip because it's such a cool thing. Thanks for the question, Tim. Phil asks, Ola Ben, will you give us an update on Phantom Drain for version 9, if it's better or worse? I will. Not right now. I don't have the data, or I haven't actually churned through the data yet, but I will do that soon. That is on my list of things, among many other things with version 9, so stay tuned. Thanks for the question, Phil. Miguel asks, I'm interested in buying a used P90D. I would like to know if AP1 is still getting improved with the new version 9 update and other updates to come. I know version 1 will never reach fully autonomous, but do they improve it or will just stay the same? I don't know from personal experience. I would imagine it did. I mean, my 2013 Model S got updates, so I would have to assume that the AP version 1s did as well. Maybe someone on a forum or something has a better answer for you, a more definitive one. But personally, I like AP1 a whole heck of a lot. I would be very excited about a P90D myself. So there you go. Thanks for the question, Miguel. Tim asks, I'm waiting to order my Model Y. All right. Do you think Tesla will be able to handle all of the orders they receive regarding production issues they have? Yeah, with the new factory. That's really the big question right now. The biggest question I see for Tesla right now is where they're going to build their new factory and when that's going to come online. I'm hoping, and some people have pointed out before in emails to me, that there are many or several factories out there in the US that literally could just be bought and flipped around. Obviously, they need to do their equipment and install, and that'll take, at least a year or so. So we'll see. I think that's the biggest question right now. Of course, the Model Y unveiling tentatively for March of next year. We'll see. But I think hopefully they get that figured out, because that's the big question mark. Now, the other thing, and I did a video on this, you can go check it out, was the flex circuit, which is this other kind of wiring system that they're trying to use. And with this flex circuit, the catch is that it will reduce the amount of wiring to something like 100 meters, which is down from like 1.5 kilometers, which is for the Model 3, which is down from 3 kilometers, which is what the Model S and Model X have roughly. So if that's true and they're able to accomplish that, and Elon has said, he says these things all the time, so take it with a grain of salt, that it will be a revolution in manufacturing. That means that it could simplify the development of this. It could also reduce the price. It also could make it much more profitable from the get-go. So I'm with you. I'm very much looking forward to the Model Y, and I do plan on ordering one right now. That may change, so don't hold me to it. But right now, that's kind of, me and my wife were talking about, that's kind of our thinking, is order the Model Y, probably sell the Model S, and unless at that time they have a P120D or a P140D or something like that, then maybe we would go that route. But for now, that's kind of our trajectory. And of course, I wanted to make videos to share with you guys. So thanks for the question, Tim. Going to be lots of Model Y talk coming up soon. Donald asks, do you think that the blind spot warning will someday be available when not in AP mode? It seems to work in non-AP mode for me. I just drove back from LA last night, and I actually did do a test of it. So I'm not sure if you're not seeing it. Maybe you don't have the exact version I have. I don't know, but it seems to work for me. Thanks for the question, Donald. Garlo asks, I've recently received software version 9. What are your thoughts on items that may be missing from the update, or how they can improve it going forward? Yeah, I wish that camper mode was in version 9 for the Model 3. That would have been, that's kind of a bummer that that's not there. The dash cam also has a lot to be desired, or leaves a lot to be desired. And I have been having all kinds of weird issues with kind of media streaming since then. I don't know. I mean, I was driving through LA, should be fine, yeah, right? And then San Diego should be fine. So, yeah, it's some little things like that. I'll be posting a deeper review later. Thanks for the question, Carlo. EV and infrastructure analytics. Hey, guys. What do you think Tesla needs to or should add to the board? Do you think a millionaire data analyst would be a good addition to the board? Maybe someone focused on data, but again, the board has nothing to do with the operations of the company, so I don't really know if that would help at all. I think data people are critical to be in the room when key decisions at the company are being made, and so this wouldn't necessarily help that. So maybe if they had a chief data officer, I think that would be critical. I don't know why they don't. I mean, data is such a critical part of what they do. Think about all the Autopilot stuff. Think about all the trips and efficiency and all the and how that influences the manufacturing to improve it. I mean, they really are a data-based company, a data-centric organization. So yeah, we'll see. And thanks for watching. Ray asks, do you think the Tesla Semi will remain a central seated position, or due to other countries' regulation will be right or left biased? I don't know. I have no clue what the other countries' regulations are on these kind of things. But I mean, I don't know. You can drive a right-hand car in the U.S. Just weird, because you're driving on the wrong side. But we'll see. It's very curious. I mean, the Semi to me is a wild thing. Sitting in there was like this weird, really weird experience, but it's pretty cool. I can't wait to go race one whenever that day comes. Thanks for the question, Ray. Smudger asks, with the large areas of glass on the Model 3, do you anticipate any particular problems with this model caused by sun damage to the exposed interior, like fading of soft materials and cracking of harder ones? That's a very interesting question. Maybe from the sides, but from the top, that thing is pretty dang protected with the IR film and then tint. So I don't think the top causes any extra problems. So it'd just be from the side, and in which case, I guess you'd consider, you could look at other cars in the same vein and say, oh well, does this happen on other cars that have, like, say, a metal roof? So yeah, I don't know. Probably not. But, maybe after 10, 15 years, you'll see something. I wouldn't worry about it. Thanks for the question. Roxy asks, what are the best Model 3 interior floor mats? I don't know. I am going to test some out, though, because the holidays are coming, and I think that's a great gift. Thank you for the suggestion. EV and infrastructure analytics again. Have you seen the text of the joint filing to the New York South District Court from last Thursday? Tesla announced their Twitter vetting procedure yet? And what effect on Tesla will it have if they start censoring Elon's tweets? Oh, okay. I haven't seen that text, but I assume you're talking about how Elon needs to have his stuff run through a lawyer or somebody, or a third party, to make sure that it doesn't contain material information that could manipulate the stock. Which honestly, I think a lot of people should have that are in positions like his. I don't know about Tesla's Twitter vetting procedure. I haven't heard anything about it, and really, who wants that job? I don't think it'll really have much an effect on Tesla. Hopefully it'll reduce any whatever volatility may be caused by his tweets. So there you go. Thanks for the question. Bill asks, with the standard range Model 3, other than having to recharge more frequently on a long road trip, is there any other downside? I've heard people say battery degradation, but I've not seen data to prove that. So that's like in my head right now, chalking that up as a rumor. For me, my advice is always buy the biggest battery you can possibly afford. I do think it's for road trips. It depends where you live, obviously. But this goes to another topic I want to talk about in a video someday. But Consumer Reports did a thing recently where they were saying, the Nissan Leaf with 149 or 50 miles of range or whatever it is fine, because that's all electric cars. That's all you need an electric car for. I disagree. I think electric cars are for everything, for all trips. In fact, that's why my family, besides our old beat up truck that we just use to haul stuff, that's all we have are electric cars. And we go on road trips quite often. And so it's one of those things that I disagree that you don't need 400, 500 mile range electric cars, because if we're ever going to truly make that transition, they have to be on par with what's there today. So yeah, the argument against a longer range electric car is basically an argument for gas cars, is the way I see it. So yeah, more to come on that. But yeah, I guess, to your point, road trips are the thing. Also just how frequent you have to charge. Just, I charge maybe once a week instead of every night. Whereas my Model S, when I drive that, I have to charge every other day. So, it certainly adds to the convenience to have a longer one, and that's why I recommend it. Thanks for the question, Phil. Dennis asks, I have a 2-year-old Model X that is a hardware version 1. I've not received the OS 9 update. What is Tesla's rationale for the order in which the vehicle gets software updates? I wish I knew, Dennis. Who knows, honestly? Could be 100 different things, and so I'm not even going to try to answer. Sorry. Mel asks, something odd version 9 of my Model S when I approach a car on the freeway and that car is in the lane to the right of me and I pass the vehicle. It looks like on screen like the other vehicle is moving backward. I suspect this is an optical illusion. Yeah, there definitely is a lot of weirdness that's happening right now with that display on my Model 3. I did get it on my Model S, but I don't even have any of those sensors on my Model S, so I don't see any of it. In the Model 3, I see cars just kind of coming over and they're like on top of you, etc. And sometimes it looks like they're getting into your lane, but they're going the other way. In fact, yesterday when I was driving to LA, my car, I'm in the HOV lane, it on autopilot, and it like slams on the brakes. Not like screeching tire halt, but like really like woo, and that was really scary. I do have dash cam footage of that, so stay tuned for that coming up. But that to me indicates that there's something about possibly these new sensors that it's looking for things or seeing things that aren't really there. And this is part of that growing pains process. This is why I still hold that full self-driving is a long ways away, because once you have a car like this and you try to do these things, you find out very quickly that it's very limited compared to a person driving. So super convenient and is really great in the right circumstances, but clearly not as capable, nearly as capable as a human yet. So yeah, I'm not sure. Hopefully this isn't a major problem, and hopefully it doesn't cause any accidents. I'll have to check the footage, but I was worried someone was going to rear end us because we're going 75, 80 miles an hour on the freeway and just basically slammed on the brakes, and that was not cool. So scared the crap out of me and my wife. And my son was in the car too. Brian asks, any news on when the standard battery will be available? Do you think they will work through all their long-range reservations before they make the standard available? I think it's not necessarily working through all the long range. It's more about the scale. I think Elon has said once they hit 5,000 a week on a regular basis, on a consistent basis, then they'll start to go that route. I don't know. Obviously there's some changes that have to be made to the vehicles and all those things, like the battery packs have to be made separately and those kind of things. They have to be made differently. So there's changes throughout the whole process, and so it's not something that'll happen overnight. Even if they said, cool, let's do it today. So I think people are speculating possibly by the end of this year, you'll see that option available. I would be super stoked if that happened. I believe Elon has also said late 2018, but we'll see. And then possibly, if not then early 2019 is a much more sure bet. Thanks for watching, Brian. Danticus asked, Tesla announced that any car ordered by 10/15 is guaranteed delivered by the end of the year. Is that the right time to order my Model 3 all-wheel drive to take advantage of the tax credit? Yes, I assume so. We'll see. I'm just not sure. It seems like you don't necessarily like this is maybe a false deadline, but hey, if they're saying it, then maybe there's some truth to it. This is one of those funding secured moments. Ollie asks, is Autopilot worth $5K? I don't know if you should buy it. Also, recommendations for winter wheels, tires, repeat that not much fits on it because of the calipers. Yeah, I don't know about the wheels for the P3D in terms of that, but the Autopilot, I would say if you drive on road trips ever, it's worth it. Which is a difference than previously. You know, me driving to work and back every day, I don't use it. I use it 0% of the time. When I go on road trips though, like I've been in LA twice in the past 10 days. It's super nice to have, especially when it's just like congested traffic, which you can imagine. Southern California, we get quite a bit of. Thanks for the question, Ali. John asks, in regards to the federal tax credit legislation introduced by John Barrasso, this is the one where he wants to get rid of it. This will include those who have already received their Model 3 this year. No, it wouldn't be retroactive. That would include. I don't believe so. I don't believe it would be retroactive at all. And I doubt it will pass. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about it. Yep. And then also there's the fact of like if the House loses to the Democrats, then chances are it won't even go anywhere. So there you have it. Have you heard of any updates on the right-hand models arriving in the UK or any estimate prices in Great British pounds? I don't. My friend Robert Llewellyn over at Fully Charged may have more insight about this, so maybe hit him up on the Twitters or just check out his channel, Fully Charged. Great show. Thanks for the question, Matt. Powell asks, is full self-driving capability now worth it from the factory with V9, or should I wait a little more? I'm not a fan of paying for this because I think it's so far down the road. What you may see are some distinction with new versions coming out that like full self-driving gets but regular doesn't. And then down the road they did say that there's a possible, or I think it is confirmed, that you'll have to replace some MCU chip or something in there, which is like the processing unit. They're not using GPUs because of the simulation problem, and they've talked about this on the last earnings call. They had Karpathy and a few of the other guys on there. So right now, essentially what you're doing is hedging against whatever future cost may be to upgrade that chip. And personally, I think it's so far down the road that it's not worth it. I'll definitely have a new car by then that hopefully will have that, new chip or whatever in it. So yeah, up to you. But I don't recommend it. Thanks for the question. Ray asks, do you think that like the Model S and Model X, but do you think that like the Model S and X, but those that want the standard size battery pack will have a longer range pack, but with software limitations? Okay, I get what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, there definitely will be an actual smaller battery with less cells in it, that's for sure. But the question about software limiting, that might not be a bad idea from their standpoint. It does seem like kind of a waste, and I don't know if they have room to do waste. So I'm going to go with no. Thanks for the question, Ray. Donald asks, how do we send you an email? Go to teslanomics.co/contact, and there's a form you can fill out there. James asks, your most recent video regarding Software 9 complains that the USB stick for the dashcam users are prevented from simultaneously charging two mobile phones. This is wrong. Okay, so how do you plug in two things to the same one? They all have a cigarette lighter outlets. This is a... Yeah, okay. I don't know what you're saying. You can't plug in two to the same one, right? And you can't... And the USB stick has to go in one of those two according to their thing. So, sorry, you're wrong. Arvids asks, could you try and investigate to talk in the Europe latest show about Tesla plans for Europe, and for me, for specifically Northeastern Europe, Baltic states? There had to be a supercharger going to Moscow via the Baltics, and it's linked to Central Europe 2 years ago, but still nothing, nor are there any real news on Europe in general. So the last thing I heard about about Europe was they were going to keep their headquarters in the Netherlands and then do the factory in Germany or something. I forget what they were doing, but essentially there was some news about this, I believe, on the last earnings call. So maybe you can find it there. I don't know about these plans specifically, but there is a page on the Tesla website you can go to look for this. So there you have it. Reed asks, best Tesla forum site? Don't know. Don't use forums. Reed asks again, the online upgrade has not yet been delivered to my Model 3. Should I just sit tight and wait? Online upgrade. I'm not sure what you're talking about, the online upgrade. But yeah, waiting is not a bad idea. All right, and that's all we got for Q&A today. Thank you, everyone, for joining me on this lovely Monday. I hope you guys have a good week. I really do. I will be posting more videos now, so stay tuned on this channel. And again, don't forget I have a highlights channel where all the clips and stories from today's broadcast are available. So definitely go check that out at teslanomics.co/HL for highlights. And until then, don't forget, when you free the data, your mind will follow. See you guys next time.